The time is 4:32, and I'd like to welcome everyone to this meeting. It's the Uplift Education Board of Trustees, and to ensure we have a quorum present, I'm going to read out the names of the members of the executive committee. If you're here, please say present. Dr. Leo Melville, John McPherson,
Present.
John Becker,
Present.
Simon Chen, Pilar, present. Ricky,
Present.
Rusty, present. Cameron,
Present.
Harold,
Present.
James, Tracy, present. Christine. Thank you. Jasmine?
Great, wonderful. Well, first of all, thank you to all of our board members who participated in our school leader lunches first semester. I hope you enjoyed those experiences. It's time to sign up for second semester school leader lunches. So I will walk this over, or we'll send it all the way down to Mandy and then work it around. And please look at the dates, the locations are on here, and sign up if you can do one of our second semester school leader lunches. We will follow up with a calendar invite, the address, all the good things for you, and then logistics again, like before. So we'll send it down this way, we'll look forward to that.
Your participation, that has been meaningful. Thank you to the Engagement Committee for all your fine work in setting that up. The next order of business is community forum. Alex, do you have anything?
We do not have any members, recommended members signed up, so we can move on to the next business item.
Okay, great. I'd like to take care of that. I think many of you know already that our family, the Melville Family Foundation, has come alongside Uplift since 2018. And the work has not only been good, but it has been meaningful. If you have not had a chance to be with our families, I'm going to need you to do that. In some way, boots on the ground, be with our families. It's worth your time. This year, we supported Uplift through our Thanksgiving. We started in 2019 with 50 turkeys and the sides that go with it. In total, with supporting some work at Mercy Street and Bridge Builders, we were able to support over 750 families. Incredibly exciting. I think the moments that were the most exciting for me was that our parents and scholars worked alongside us as we worked in the community. You know, no good deed is really official until Yasmin shows up. And she showed up strong to direct traffic. I say that for this reason.
Literally.
Right. I say that for this reason, because all of us can do whatever it needs to be done to get the work done, and that's what happened during our Thanksgiving with Uplift. So a great time, meaningful and powerful, and you know, it's just good to be people. So thanks for the opportunity to share the Melville Family Foundation with Uplift, and thanks to Uplift family scholars, parents, teachers, administrators for making that a meaningful event.
I just want to thank Gail and her family. She shared the numbers of all the families they served for their Thanksgiving, and those 750 families, 550 were from Uplift. We ran 2 distribution sites, an Uplift unit and an Uplift Hampton. And the picture you can see on the left were 60+ volunteers, corporate volunteers. We spent all Saturday morning until early afternoon at Uplift Hampton, packing up these incredible boxes you can see in the top right-hand corner, and then you can see the cars that ran through our car line, where they got 2 boxes and a turkey and a ham, and they got meaningful amounts of food to provide for their family. And I was out directing traffic because we had families lining up starting at 9 a.m. for an 11 a.m. opening of our car line. And it was just so powerful to see how many of our families were served, and they showed their generosity in so many ways, but how they roll up their sleeves and help people alongside us. And special thanks to John and his team in the back, his ops team.
Amazing.
Were amazing. They were helping getting ready late Friday night to welcome volunteers onto the campus, and also Brendan's family engagement team were right alongside our ops team in
Yeah, that's a big move up the hill there. And a shout out to Toby Caesar also for being on hand. And if I missed anyone, target to my mind. And my heart, it was a great move. So moving on.
Okay. Hi, everyone. It's so nice to see such a full, I'm going to grab those from you and talk at the same time. I'm here to give you, the entire board, a quick update from Dinner and Dialogue. So, thank you all, first of all, for joining us for what was our best event ever. And, thank you, Will. We had a 35% increase raised over the last year. We had 5 more donors in the previous year during the paddle raise. We sold more tables, and annually we've seen a 50 to 80 increase in number in attendance, and an annual $200,000 increase since we started this event. So thank you all for leaning in and really tapping your network, showing up, filling those tables. It really was the first year that we didn't have to hustle the week of to fill tables that were being thrown back to us, and I think that says a lot about our speaker that we had in the room. People were really excited to hear John Height, so thank you to Christine who's not here today. This is the breakdown of our table sales. You can kind of see how it worked out this year. The next slide, I'm just going to move this because I'm waiting a lot. This is the breakdown of donations, and you have this in your packet so you can go through it. You can see we had meaningful support during the paddle race. Thank you. We also asked for your feedback, and we took our own feedback on the event. Some of the glows are it was the best attended event. Lots of people liked it on a Friday night. Saw more than half of you all would like to see it on a Friday night. The event flow worked well. The ambiance was great. Yasmin's remarks worked really well, and she worked hard on those. We give her some initial stuff, and she's like, "Thank you, but I'll do it myself." She's really great at that. Our opportunity areas, definitely for that venue, was the ballet. We understand the quality of food wasn't exactly what we wanted it to be. From a fundraising standpoint, we need to move more corporate tables up a level to increasing our fundraising capacity. And we need to build on the Fund of Future Success that we had this year and have maybe a little bit clearer expectations and communications with everyone of what we're doing that night and how it's going to support our organization. So Yasmin and I had a call last week with another nonprofit in Dallas just to hear about the event that they throw and how much money they spend and how much they raise. So we just thought it'd be a good economic case study for the board to get some insight into as we compare our events to other events and as we think about the ROI on Dinner and Dialogue. So this other nonprofit has their event on Saturday. It's a black tie event. There is a paddle raise. There's no speaker per se, and there's a live and silent auction. They raised $2 million last year. They had roughly almost double the number of guests. The revenue raised per guest was about $700 more. But then we spent $100 more than us, and that is largely due to the fact that we pay for a speaker and their travel expenses, which can range anywhere over the years from early years was $20,000 to now roughly $75,000 plus travel. It just starts to add up. You can think about $100,000 to get someone that will motivate people to come to your event. So that's a cost. Our ROI, or the cost against the money raised, we're at roughly 50%, where this other event's at 22.5%. And they had more table event sponsors. They have no $5,000 tables. Their floor is $10,000. And then they add fun little add-ons like a signature drink at your table or things like that. You can pay another disc for that. So they're really creative in being able to do that. And then their total from their paddle raise was $750,000 compared to our $300,000, which ours was still great for a first time doing it. But we wanted to give you a side-by-side look of another event, not exactly comparable, but where we probably need to get closer to on the cost of our event versus the amount raised. Yeah, I don't know if you have anything else from our.
Yeah, I just think that's the headline here actually have a pretty expensive event because of the caliber of the speaker. And each 100 additional guests is really only about $20,000 in incremental cost. So if you think about $10,000 tables, you're bringing in for every 100 additional guests, basically a net $80,000 just for the table sponsorships, because all the fixed costs are in. And so what Deborah's going to show in the next slide is the industry standard is about 30 to 35% of expenses to total revenues raised. And so we clearly just, our ratio is just off right now. We want to be transparent about that. We know that, but we also have some suggestions that we'll get to in a minute of like how we can, for next time's dinner dialogue, like move towards what industry standard is while still maintaining a high caliber speaker.
So we made choices in the last couple of years to elevate our event, right? To make it I want to attend this event. We consciously spent more money to make it more of an appealing event. And now it's just time to think about what will it take to make the industry standard of expenses versus money raised for this event, right? And so for us, that would be to secure some more in-kind donations. They shared with us some really great information about the production company basically donates all this stuff and they just pay for the staff time. So that's great because I know our events team loves to negotiate, and so if we give them a little bit of a challenge, I know they'll rise right to it and can push our vendors around that. We'll need to eliminate, right, our $5,000 full tables. We can maybe offer them as half tables as an option, but we really need to think about our floor at being a $10,000 table. And we would still, have some half tables, and it would have about a $50,000 impact. We still like 10 more tables at $10,000, which would increase our attendance. And we're looking at the Anatole for next year, which has limitless capacity almost, right? It's a really big ballroom. And that would give us another $100,000. If we can secure a notch up our top sponsors, 2 more $25,000 sponsors, we could increase our revenue there. And then with more people, we could grow our paddle raise by, hopefully by $75,000. So if we can get more revenue, we think we can get closer to the 33% ratio that is the industry standard. And we'd like to give ourselves another year to get there and look at it and see if that's feasible, or do we need to step back and rethink the event and reimagine it in a different way to be more in line with the standards. So next steps, Ricky's been working with Jessica and Rusty and other members of the board on really securing chairs in a committee for next time. First chairs, then a host committee. What that does is it brings in new people who each have at least one friend that will buy at least one table, right? That gets you to that $10,000 table numbers. It helps just expand our network of folks. We're working on dates. Originally, to the executive committee, I had shared October 2nd is Yom Kippur. We are not going to do that on Yom Kippur. So we are looking at other fall dates, and we're also considering moving it to February 2026, which still is our next fiscal year. It won't impact us at all, and it gives us just more runway to raise more money and to be more thoughtful about the event. So, okay, I'm going to pause there for a minute and just see if anyone has any feedback or thoughts.
So, if you have people, we're still on that building, we're getting a smaller list on the potential chairs for next year. If you have anybody in mind or that you think would be a good prospect, please reach out to me or Jessica, who's taking the lead on the staff side. I do have a question on so I think that some of us have discussed the type of the event. And so do you feel like it is feasible are those all things that you said on the last slide that you feel are feasible with the current type of event it is? Because I do think that this type of event leads to a certain audience, right? And the difference with a lot of the galas is that people are looking at it from like, I'm going to go, I'm going to get unlimited drinks, I'm going to dance, I'm going to do all these things, right? In like a gala format. I'm going to dress up, I'm going to take all these pictures. This is not that type of event. So I think that So my question, I guess, is, do you feel that everything on the previous slide is achievable in the current format of this event?
I think it will be work, but I do think we can get to it or get close to it. And my sense is, I think we need to put a full court press and try one more year before we completely abandon the event as it sits today. We get really great feedback, I'm sorry, Candy, about that it is different and is not that, right? So, it's a matter of, if we get this great feedback, well, can we get people also then to step up to keep this type of event and be alive, if you will. Sorry, Candy.
I was just gonna say, I mean, this is you always hear about the caliber of the speakers, and if we have to spend that much money on the speakers, figuring out if we can negotiate, any type of additional before, after, where we can monetize it. I mean, I know you've probably thought about it, but I just think that people really wanna talk to the speakers.
Absolutely, we saw that with John Height in the VIP. Poor Laura had to finally pull him away from her group. He was loving being engaged in her talking with her group for like 15 to 20 minutes. I was like, I need to have you take a picture with someone else. And I felt so bad to do that. In his case, he could only come at that date and time during that because of his teaching schedule. But I agree with you. Traditionally, right, you have them come the night before and do something for those higher level classes to give us more leverage. We just didn't have that in that instance.
It's a good piece of feedback, right? Like Deborah and I keep talking about, because we're not throwing this big party, right? Like, how do you create additional value for your bigger corporate sponsors? And almost all of our previous speakers did come in the night before for a dinner. Comfort had dinner with us the night before, where you could say, okay, if you're at the $25,000 and up, like, you can get to send a delegate to a private dinner of 10 people with the speaker the night before. So I think that's a great thing as we continue to develop this package that is compelling, giving you that time.
You know that Jonathan wouldn't have done that for that price.
Oh, he definitely, he
So-
gave us his nonprofit,
Yeah.
his corporate rate is 6 figures. So most
If
of us
to have him come the night before would have been extra.
oh, yes,
Absolutely.
absolutely, yeah,
Saying.
yes, absolutely, absolutely. I just think it's really important to know the level of speakers we're talking about, where nonprofit rates are still, Jumper was $50,000, you know, and it's just the level we're at. And I think the question you have, Ricky, about like, can we do it, right? We'd love to try, you know, give our good old college try, like, because we're getting savvy of like what we need to do to make the numbers work, for one more time of a community event. But we know a lunch event is less expensive, and so, you know, if we need to 2 years from now, we can always think about the chick lit luncheon, where they have a great, you know, author, and it's on a weekday lunch, and they have people in the room, you know, it's just a different type of event. So we're willing to keep exploring, but we'd like to try one more year to have a community event and make it economic for as favorably as possible and applying the standards. If someone has a different suggestion on that, we're totally open to that as well. And I think about the history of dinner and dialogue. The very first event was a taco lunch before senior decision day.
It wasn't called dinner and it wasn't called dinner.
It wasn't called dinner and dialogue. It was like,
it was
you
the
know,
tailgate before.
it was the
college
tailgate.
signing
It
day,
was
yeah.
college tailgate, and it was like super baby small. And then we like moved to this dinner format on a weekday night, and you know, in a small venue. And it's continued to evolve. We just need to figure out what's possible in this current construct.
Like everything else at Uplift, we are innovative. We are willing to keep trying and pushing a little bit.
One thing I just want to add, because I don't think that probably most of us know this, that we actually don't have a good corporate base for this event. From the names that we all know and probably are affiliated with or have friends who are leaders in these organizations, the majority of the corporate sponsors for this event are actually Uplift vendors. So that's this staff really leveraging their HR functions and their facilities functions and their construction functions to really bring in the corporations that are doing business with Uplift. I think that there's a lot of area to grow. And so I'm almost as kind of bullish on getting chairs as getting corporate sponsors. So like, right now, we know that corporations are looking at their 25 budgets. They already have allocated those budgets, most of them, from a perspective of what they have, but they're still making decisions around how they're going to spend it. So if you have, over the holidays, you know, your Christmas parties, you're connecting with friends, like folks that may be interested in this work, I think now is the time to really hit the ground running as far as trying to secure at least interest that we can follow up with. And so, you know, again, in addition to potential chairs, I think it's about highlighting, hey, I have a contact over at, you know, Interstate Matters or whatever that may be, right? So please reach out to Jessica or Deborah or myself, because that's really where we can fill in the gaps that she showed on that previous slide. It's like all the big players are not actually engaged in this event. I think Schwab is the largest like corporation that anybody would recognize, you know, from the general public that is supporting this event. So we have a lot of ground potentially to gain from that perspective.
You know, Board, in the past, we have not been very good at this space. We have handed it over to the committee and said, we're going to support the committee, but this is a specific ask from your Rolodex and your contact, that if you know people who would be interested in a conversation, we are asking you to advance the conversation, because a corporate underwrite would turn this event around. And I have an idea, maybe one or two of you know people, I don't know, I'm just guessing, but if you would be willing to just have those conversations, this would be a game changer. We could definitely take it to the next level. So I am asking you to please consider this conversation beyond this room and see how we can begin to better underwrite this event so that we can in fact impact this in a way that I know we can.
Thank you, Will. We're hopeful when we come back, next board meeting, I think is January, that we'll hopefully have a date, and that way it'll be a little bit easier to think about it. And if we do push it to winter of 2026, that gives an entire year to really think about those budgets and that list, we can work together on that. So thank you for considering it. I'm going to move us on. Our stakeholder lunch is January 23rd at Old Parkland. We're going to invite our current major donors. We have a list of email invites going out this week, and then one is being put in the mail. Prospective donors, potential board members are on the list, and those passionate about public education to learn more about the impact of Uplift. This is an awareness building event. We do not ask for one single penny. We don't even hint at it. There's not like an envelope hidden somewhere. It is truly just learn about Uplift. You know, think about if you want to get involved. That's how Pilar got involved with Uplift. So we were glad to meet her at that event. Yasmin shares a state of the organization type of comments. And then we're going to end with a panel discussion this year. We plan on focusing on our alumni success and having a Life After Uplift panel with kind of a cross-section of our alumni to talk about, you know, how they got to where they are and the piece of that Uplift had to play in that. Our board ask, and Yasmin's going to follow up with a note, and we have the e-bike invitation, is think about 3 people that you want to introduce to Uplift, knowing that we are not going to ask them for one penny. I promise. There's no yellow bracelet to talk about at this event. And invite them to join the luncheon just to learn about us. And either we prefer that you share their name and email with me so that you can then track those donations and just not donations, sorry, I'm always working that way. Their invitations and their RSVP and link them back to you. Or you can forward the invitation that we'll send out to you. It'd be great just to know either way who you're inviting so we can keep track and let you know. That, I believe, concludes my slides. Yes.
Thank you. Thank you. We just hear now our finance and goals.
I'm sorry, I'm not here on out of order. We're going to go to academic update next.
Thank you.
Thank you. Yes. Daniel and Sophia.
Hello, how's everyone doing today? Is this move myself over here so I can be on camera. Daniel Gray, Deputy Chief of College and Career. I'm going to talk a little bit about the bit of background on what we actually do. This is a lot of stuff already, so college trips, career trips, we do lots of different inventories with our students, but this is actually nowhere near comprehensive. This is all the work that we do with our students. Our Road to College and Careers team is working with our students every single day, helping them understand more about who they are, what they want to be, and then helping them find a way to get to whatever that pathway may be. And so really starting, it says 9th and 10th grade, one, because I didn't want to make the long too small, but really we start working with them as much as we possibly can. So really in middle school, we're working with our students, helping them really understand more and more about who they are, how we can help them achieve whatever goals they may have with work that we're doing. The majority of our work, it does happen in that 12th grade year, so that's called application support, that's helping them with essays, personal statements, actually helping them do the actual selection of whatever college they're going to go to ensure that our students have the opportunity to take whatever the best fit college would actually be. And so if we go to the next slide, again, just wants to like level set what we're doing. At the top, I wanted to say, here is sort of the main priority that we're looking at for this year, what I'm going to cover during the time I have you right now. So one, we still recognize that college is by far the best way to help a student get into middle class, upper class, whatever that is in life. So it doesn't change the way that their life is, change that life trajectory. College is that best pathway. We also know that there's lots of negative conversations around college. Sure, if you were to open up whatever newspaper that you may have, look into it today, you could find some article that says college is not worth it. But we also know that that just isn't true. Like it's outright isn't true. I'll show you some data that will actually like double stamp that, but want to make sure at the very least just sort of linking it up top. We're also working on just doing some work to upskill our college counselors. The college counselors are really good. I consider them as good as you're going to find in Texas, really probably in the country. Doesn't mean that we're good enough. We can always do better, we can always improve, and that's really what we're trying to do right now, is make sure that we can find ways to improve our counselors, help them be better, help them get where they need to go. Working through our career pathway program as well too, and I'll introduce Sophia a little bit later on, to talk about really some of the different options that we're helping our students understand exist for them, how we can help them get into those. So we're also doing some support on the post-secondary side to help the students also. On the second step, we'll talk a little bit about alumni. One thing that we've seen is just sort of CSGF is Starsville Growth Fund, is sort of a collective of charters across the country. We have, I think, through just like sheer effort and energy and like good strategy, have maintained a role of being one of the top performing charters in their network. Something that we're really proud of, and still continue to build on that. We recognize that as much success as we're seeing for our students, all seeing that sort of how well our students are doing compared to the rest of Dallas County, we recognize that again, that still isn't enough, and we want to continue to push ourselves forward. I won't read through this slide step by step. Really well, I'll touch on sort of from, if we go from my right to left, is that colleges keep getting more and more expensive to us. And that becomes an hindrance for students wanting to go to college. We recognize that even though that's something we want students to do, and we talk about it every day, they have a consistent concern that college is so expensive, and that becomes so limiting for them to go. Supreme Court saying that race is no longer impacting the factor of in college admissions is just for many of our kids. It is something that feels like a direct slap in the face to them. Whether that was an intentional thing or not, what we recognize is still that a lot of our kids took that as a sort of decision against them wanting to go to college. It felt very personal for many of them, whether that was the case or not, but that was something that they felt. The third thing is FAFSA. FAFSA this past year, I don't know how much you all heard about this thing, but the other debacle that we had this past year, but we're still living with it now. For many kids, it just said to them, college isn't for me. And because that is, if I have to go through all these things, if all these things are telling me that I shouldn't be here, then maybe this is another way of saying, like, if I can't afford this, if I can't figure out how much money I'm going to actually get for college, maybe I just shouldn't be going, maybe not. And then sort of last, and that's sort of I touched on it earlier, but that college isn't for everyone narrative just continues to grow more and more for students. They continue to hear more and more about that. And the more that they hear that college is for them, and then have those previous things with FAFSA, Supreme Court, all those things happening all at once, it says to them, this was just way too much effort, way too much work. This is not me if I want to try and do it myself. But fortunately though, all the data says that college is actually a fantastic thing. So if you look at this slide, there's a couple of things that I think are really interesting about it. So if you look at that top line, it says earnings for young men without a college degree have increased over the past 10 years. If you look at the way that slide's written, you go back from 1970 to 2020, it's deep for those without college degrees. Those with college degrees, it's increased. So what that is telling me actually is that there's a framing of how this is framed that tries to make it seem like not going to college is a positive, when in reality actually it's massive negative over the course of the long term. And so really trying to help students understand that when it comes to going to college, overall, there's always going to continue to grow. If you don't go, while you can make money, while we have seen television go up somewhat, overall, salaries for those without college degrees continue to go down over the last year. That's something that we just have to really just understand, but help our students recognize that when it comes to, I don't go to college, what is the actual impact on my long-term life? This is what it actually looks like. Even more beyond that, I mean, touch a little bit on just the idea that people see college as not being as valuable as what it has been. That's really what this is touching on. This is saying that only 22% of people think that college is worth it if you have to pay loans. If you think about what that is, 22% of people out there, this is from the Pew Research Center, so this isn't just like me talking to people that I know, this is actually like Pew Research saying only 20% of people, so 2 in 10 people say that if I take out loans, college is still worth it. If you think about what that actually is, we looked at that previous slide and this slide, take those two together. We have fewer people who got in college, so fewer people who are actually going to go to college, so fewer people who are making it in a timeline that actually makes the life changing income in their life. So just like those two things don't jive. Money is coming from people who go to college, but the way that we're continuing to see that, like what people actually believe is very different. But for us though, this is like a very different thing. Sorry. But for us it's very different though, is that we see our students are actually still saying we value college, we recognize that it's a good thing for us, and know that it's important for us. So if you look for the last 4 years, even with, I showed you sort of earlier that people don't believe college is important, we recognize that. Our students are still choosing college over the loan, which is fantastic. So as we see over the last 4 years, we've gone from sort of a middle 70% sort of after COVID, sort of mid-COVID to mid 80%. So more and more of our students are choosing college every single year. Which is again a great thing. Council is doing really good work. Doesn't mean that we're doing it. The next slide goes even more so sort of touching on that same thing. You still see our numbers still going up. We're also seeing nationally, and in Texas, there's sort of a different thing. So in Texas, we're seeing some like minor increases. We're actually seeing nationally, related to the first point, so FAFSA coming out late, paying for a decision, we're seeing that college has gone down. So college went down about 5%. So first time in college, 18-year-olds, we actually saw that the rate of students who are going to college goes down. But again, just recognizing that there's something that we're really proud of here, and seeing our students still say college is important, we recognize the value, we see how important that is, even different than what we're seeing from the state or from the national. And that's something that for us is just incredibly valuable. Right? So our students have recognized that, taking that learning, taking that information, and said, we're going to continue to go to college, and continue to make that our key goal is heading up to college. And so that's something we want to make sure we continue to do. While we're proud of seeing what we're just seeing with all the students, seeing our students go off to college, we also know that there are certain populations that are achieving college at different rates. So one of the things that we're seeing is that our African American males and our Latinx males are attending colleges lower rates than we have. We're seeing more and more of them opt into different decisions, opt into different careers. They're seeing some of the different conversations that are happening around just general college going. They're saying maybe college isn't right for me. So what we're going to do actually is really create some very specific targeted interventions to help support them, to make sure that they're actually prepared, that they're seeing college as being valuable for them. So we're going to work really closely, have some direct conversations, pull in some focus groups with students like that, have them come and actually meet with the campus leaders, and really create a targeted support system and targeted interventions for them, to help them understand, one, what they can learn about going to college, but then two, why college would be important for them. So really what we're trying to do is really change and put sort of a stop to this sort of slide that we're seeing, and make sure we're seeing more and more of our students, male, female, whatever the case may be, attend college, because we do this recognize that there are significant values for them to actually go to college. So, just sort of like I touched on earlier a little bit about some of the work we're doing around our college counselors. I won't go into all this, I think it's more or less just information helping understand, so that we're really making some significant changes in how we develop our counselors. But really at the key core of what this is talking about is just really saying, we recognize that this, like, creating resident sort of cohort type learning model programs is going to be the best way for us to really help our counselors get better. So what we're doing is really creating some really unique, really type cohort programs around our group. So students are brand new counselors, year 1 counselors, year 3 counselors, and more experienced counselors to help them continue to develop, get trained, and still learn what they need to do. Sometimes when you have a counselor who's been in their role for a few years, they sometimes start to think that they know all the things, they need to do a little bit less studying, a little bit less work. And what we actually want to do is make sure we continue to push them and challenge them, help them understand and learn more so they aren't stopping those from that point. And then, so I'm going to wrap up on our college access portion, and then some cost questions, and then I'm going to introduce Sophia. So just overall, sort of just like wrapping up the whole thing, we've seen just like college continues to get more and more challenging. The narrative around college is more challenging. But we're seeing our students still say that they recognize how important college is. Like they recognize that they understand that, and they're still choosing college over anything else in that same class. We're really excited about their college. We also know that salaries among those with college degrees continue to grow. We saw in the report that our salaries have outpaced most of Dallas County. And much of that is because our students are heading off to college, and because they're heading off to college, they're moving to our money. It seems like tying those two things together, helping students understand that, is really some of the things that we're trying to do to help our counselors understand how to approach those students a little bit more closely. And again, like I said, lots of things to be proud of. We also do have to recognize some things that we just want to continue to work on, to get better at internally. And even though I would say that our counselors are as good as anyone in the country, but I also recognize that the software is able to get as good as it possibly can be. So I'll pause there before we move on to the first photo piece. If anyone has any questions about sort of the first part?
So, you know, specifically Black Manson and Latinx. What's growth of the company like?
I mean, growth's been doing well. I mean, so we've seen our black females are going to college at about 90% rate. Spanish females are going to college at about 85% rate. So they are overwhelmed sort of like driving our numbers up. This is from a 2023, so it's a couple years back, and our overall matriculation was a little bit lower. And so what we see is our females are overwhelmingly saying college is the right thing. We have to recognize your daughter's going to college, and I'm going to go and do that. I think for our males, there's a different story being told on trying to being successful. I think trying to make sure that we intervene in different ways within those stories, help people understand more about what the benefits are about college.
I know you probably wanted data on this, but I just wanted to ask your impressions about what our students, if they express doubt about the college story, what part of the story are they kind of not buying? I asked this. The data clearly show that the salary returns are there provided a student graduates, right? If they believe there's maybe a relatively low probability they will graduate, then actually the expected return is not good, right? So one question would be, are they confident they actually can graduate? Or is that something they express doubt? Or do they believe that the jobs are there, the salary return, if they put in the work? What do you think?
I think for a lot of our students, they think that, well, two things I think at the time. I think that there is a belief that on some level I could be successful still with poverty. I think that exists in the sort of population of students. I also do think that there's a handful of students or a number of students who also say, I haven't scored well enough in like my GPA, my ACT score, my test book PSIA. Those scores aren't high enough for me to be successful. And if those scores say I'm college ready and I'm scoring below college ready, then I don't see myself being ready to go to college. And so I think like tying those, like sort of one, just like the belief of like, seniors in high school, that confidence that I can do it. And those also were also saying like, actually my scores are saying I can't do this. I think those two things sort of play a part in that conversation. I also think there's a piece of that is just purely a little bit of early, just like if they believe that they can find a job that isn't going to make them work as hard as they have to do, and that'll help them, make enough money and pay the things they want to pay for, and they'll want to do that. So, we've had situations with students I've talked to where they wanted to be a shoe reseller or they got hair, and they saw these things as being truly viable ways of making money. Well, it's possible to do that. You should be selling shoes, probably making that much money because have the amount of investment you do up front, and if you're cutting hair, there really isn't that much money you can get into that. So I think one is just educating us too. The more we can educate students on here is actually what it costs you to have a life. That's something that makes students a lot of and have true context when they're 17 years old.
Just a couple of observations. Thank you, first of all, for this. Very good. Nationwide, you see more females in college. So I think we also need to kind of take that into account. The other thing is a lot of schools are offering ACT, SAT test schools, and so students kind of understand that can be a benchmark for their success. They don't have to have just that. And then a question for you.
say that actually, every one of our students gets a chance to visit college campus, no matter what. We have a number of programs over the course of their high school career, that they will be able to see college campuses, starting in middle school, we have a sixth grade trip, really all through, most of every grade. We have every campus, every RPCC program on campus has a budget. The majority of that budget is built to have students go to campuses. We also have bands on our campus as well too. They let you do bands if they want to call it. The nice thing about being in sort of Dallas and Fort Worth is all these universities in the area. We have a great relationship with most of them, and so it allows us to go and take time to go to those schools. We also do, during the spring, we do a larger overnight trip from most of our campuses where we actually will go to the school in Houston or Austin, and something like that in the state, and spend an overnight time at campus as well. So again, something that like we try and get our students as much as possible to talk to on college campuses, because we recognize that there is significant value having them see themselves being on that campus, seeing themselves the folks who are on that campus. John, and then Tom.
Just quick, roughly how much money do we invest in RTC or DCC?
I can like give you a rough number, maybe take it back on,
It's 6 million.
yeah.
And across how many scholars? How many scholars?
We divide it across all of our high school codes, so, well, so it's about 600 per year.
Per year?
Yes, per year. Yeah.
So across 5 years, 6 years?
So about $3,000. Yeah.
I just wanted, we always talk about the attitudinal stuff that's happening in the college world, and that's all fine and great, but, you might tell our competitors, at some point, if there's been $3,500 per student to increase the college completion rate, not matriculation rate, because Tom's point that doesn't pay off, that's actually negative experience by some amount. And so I'd love us to keep some of the data for the completion rate of our scholars within, say, 6 years of graduation, because that's where the return is from.
We have 5 slides. I got some more slides.
Okay.
So
That's just what I want to kind of, I just want to
yeah.
decide at that, I mean, we keep talking about kind of all that attitudinal shifts, and I'm talking about number of alums graduate.
There's only 2 things that I want, so we'll get to the alumni data. There's 2 things I do want to caution. One is we work with the National Student Clearinghouse. The other one is to our college completion data. The data for them doesn't come out until sort of late in November, so we actually don't have college completion data for the spring just yet. That makes sense. I'm just going to look at those, make sure I have that in. And then,
So, this is a new guy comment. I'm listening to this, and I was thinking, well, a couple areas I think you missed, right? You pointed out that these students, they're in the Uplift school system, let's say the ones that start from grade school, right? They have been educated on this concept of being a scholar, going to college. You're building that memory muscle from the time they're 4, 5, 6 years old. So my question is, where's the disconnect? And the only thing I can think of is the disconnect is 2 pieces. One, the parents, right? Because if your parents aren't role modeling it, you might be in the school for it, right? But parents aren't pushing it. And then the other 2, the obvious, the finances, right? So my question is, are we doing anything around bringing parents in to educate these parents, especially when maybe the kids hit 10th grade, 9th grade? Because it shouldn't be a mystery. By the time they're senior, it should be crystal clear on, especially if they've been in Uplift for several years, right? That they know what they want to do, right? They would have been having discussions with their counselor whether or not they want to do a trade or they want to go to college. Because I agree with you, we should be measuring graduation, not matriculation.
They do measure it, it's just maybe not, I know they measure it, but that first part of the discussion is about matriculation, right? And the payoffs in the degree.
Yeah, so I mean,
Or in the job, which we're talking about.
whatever the data show whether people think college is important or not important, I think that's relevant to a degree, but it's more important is what's important to that kid, right? And we should know, because we spend a lot of time with those kids, right? This is not their first rodeo. So we should know by the time they're senior what direction that kid wants to go and why they want to go that direction, right? So we should have clearer data from the time they're seniors sense of who has the more chance of being successful in college versus who may not be so successful in college because they have mitigating circumstances that are surrounding them.
I would say we have a good, like, pulse on all of that. You know, I think we understand that from the family side, like, our campus, like, our ECC teams are, you know, we come pretty early on. We have family high school, of course, with our high school careers. We do have a good sense into, like, who is deeply invested in going to college, who is a little bit less so. The finances end up being the big thing for the vast majority of our students. If they can't afford college, and, like, you can have someone who is truly invested in going to college all 4 years, all, you know, 13 years of capable education, and then if the money doesn't work out, then none of it works out. And so I think those are some of our, like, some of the sadder stories that I get over the course of the summer as a student who, you know, I plan on going to TCU, you know, for, you know, the last 13 years, and then something fell through financially, you know, someone lost a job, parent got sick, whatever the case may be, and that changes everything. Because at that point in time, too, you're probably too late to even, you know, make the switch to another 4-year school. You may be too late to even make it to the switch to another 2-year school, so really you're sort of stuck in the same space. But oftentimes the students just not being successful in that term. And so, like, we do a lot of the, like, parent education early on. One of the things we're starting to add this year is that we have a program called Jump that's taught in the spring. We're going to be adding that. We had it in the past, I've gone away from it, we're going to add it back. That's an income caring portion that will allow us a chance to talk to parents and have really, like, in-depth conversations with parents, helping them understand more about what the college journey will look like. Since most of our parents haven't gone to college, I think about, I think 82% of our students are the first person they're going to go to college. It means that there is no example for them in front of them. They have no idea, like, their parents can't guide them on that college journey. And so, yes, the parent may be investing in college, but they just may have no idea, like, what it may look like. So when you're saying to them, you got to pay for this application, you got to do this, you got to, like, turn in your social security, you got to do all these different things that just maybe brand new to them. It's a lot of things that just may feel like very different from what a parent may be used to. And so, yes, a parent may be deeply invested, but if everything goes new to them, that's just like there's a lot of barriers that come with them. That's, you know, again, a huge part of what our team does, but it's still going to feel like a lot of barriers if none of it is known. So,
Think about maybe a buddy program, alumni parents, right? Or parents just of all the people that participate in part of Uplift, right? Give some guidance, right?
yeah, I like that.
One thing that I also want to just mention, because I know y'all are doing work on this too, we've talked about it from a perspective of, there is an inherent distrust culturally in you know, the key word is investment, right? And so when a lot of the communities that we serve have a very high reliance on cash. And so that understanding that the financial literacy actually to understand that an investment will pay off later on is something that is very hard culturally to overcome when there is an inherent distrust of the financial system. And so I think that's something, I know that your counselors have been you know, thoughtful about that, and y'all have been working on how to really make this case, but that is a high barrier to overcome for a lot of families. And so the distrust, you saw that in the distrust of loans, right, is I'm still paying my student loans, and I feel like I'm doing okay, right? Like, it's one of those things where that takes a lot for folks to kind of conceptualize because they don't have that lived experience. So I think that that's important to just note in this conversation too, is that these communities that we are serving you know, through this organization have a high barrier to not being able to pay cash for all the expenses that are coming up. And so that's an important thing, I think, to remind ourselves about as we're looking at this.
Yeah. I think that's one of the pieces I think in terms of like counselor development, counselor education. It's very tough to help a counselor build that trust with families to help them say, yes, I know you've been saving all this money your whole life, and you know, but yes, you need to send this check off to this like, university that your kid is going to go to that you yourself have never like that going off. There's some barriers. There's just I think that there's a lot of trust that goes into that, and I think that there's a challenge in a lot of times. So, I want to pass it over to Sophia. One more question.
I think I agree with Alex also. I think this is a financial part where they don't trust any. A lot of parents send their kids to Uplift because it's not right. And it's more safer. And when we also got to think what's our parents doing. So the finance is not there. So if some parents will give you $200 and they're like, no, they can't go to college because I can't afford it. So that's the if it's $200, let's figure out what we can do to get this $200. If it's grants, scholarships, I remember, the number, y'all gave us the number for the season day of how many scholarships we got, but in all the seasons, how much is that really going to out for each kid, and can they still truly afford to go to college? Is that something that we need to push more grants, more scholarships, like truly getting out there, internships, like it's almost like how we're trying to do for the $100, like getting their name out there and building that relationship with companies so they can say, here's a $500 check. Like, and they publish that $200 bill. Their parents don't have it. So it's more like let's push grants, let's push scholarships so that parents can be like, okay, I'm okay. I can send you food, but you're gonna be great. So I think that's another thing that we probably can look at is more scholarships and grants.
Yeah, 100%, yeah. I would say that's something that I think you do really well. I think that's actually something that should be pushed pretty aggressively. I think the challenge for a lot of scholarships and grants, especially competitive grants, is that they will use FAFSA as a sugar conduct of person. So the FAFSA came out as late as it did, like amount of counts that this past year. It really wasn't there. It created sort of ripple effects that I think we're seeing overall like national articulation. And I think just like it is this new sort of talent that we need to really look to figure out. The hope is that this year FAFSA was out earlier. It seems to be going a little bit better. We're still running into some minor issues, but again, I think there is some talent that we're still trying to work through. But that is something again, I think pushing scholarships, pushing grants, and that we are every single day. Our team will make sure that our students qualify for it. We've also had some donors on our side that have been really great at letting help us pay for college, but it's also incredibly helpful because then that's money that we can then help find to need it the most and then sort of target it most. And so while that money is incredibly helpful, it isn't in the supply. So I think we're trying to go through take one more scan around. Any other questions? If not, I do want to introduce Sophia Klung-Meyer, who's our Senior Director of Career Pathways Program. She's going to come up and talk a little bit about our career exposure and experience program.
Hi, good evening. Like Daniel said, I work with him on the Road to College and Career team. I've spoken to some of you. I do lead very heavily on our healthcare programs with Baylor. But today I'm going to speak to you a little bit more broadly about some of our work with career that sort of spans all of our organization. And the data that I'm going to ground you in is actually just hot off the presses. Daniel referenced the Charter School Growth Funds a little bit earlier. We are part of that portfolio. A couple of months ago, Daniel and I had the opportunity to go to their annual post-secondary convening. This one was of particular interest to me because it had a very heavy emphasis on career exposure and sort of best practices in that space. So that was what I wanted to bring back to you today. So one of the data sets that they shared, these are just excerpts. I have the whole thing if you care to see it. But they have something called the Alumni Early Career Outcomes Study. This is inclusive of all of the high schools in the charter school portfolio, not just Uplift. So the data I'm presenting to you is more to show you sort of nationwide trends that we're starting to talk about. So just to give you a little bit of background about the survey, they reached out to the schools in the portfolio that had alumni that had like multiple classes of alumni that had already graduated. So these are alumni that graduated in the class of 2016, 2018. So if you want to sort of like put it in your heads, these are 25, 26-year-olds. These are students that hopefully have completed their college and are probably in their first, possibly second job. And what we did in this study is we just sort of asked them, now that you have a couple years of work experience under your belt, can you give us some reflections? Can you give us some feedback on what is very helpful for you? What are some things that you wish you had more of? So that's what I'm going to show you today. So the first question was, what experiences do you wish you had access to in high school to set you up for a successful career? And unsurprisingly, the top choice by almost 40% was career guidance and exploration. Sort of the through line of this entire data set is really exposure is one of the best ways to sort of improve outcomes, is just increasing, in some ways, students' vocabulary, but just understanding about what jobs exist out there, fields, industries, beyond, sort of doctor and lawyer. Something, we can go back, I did want to call out, because this was actually a conversation point, is you'll notice at the bottom, like towards the 10%, that's where trade schools and career education comes in, which I think was actually surprising to some. But I think that sort of speaks sort of that narrative that Daniel was referring to, is that I think externally you hear a lot about sort of the myth of the welder, right, sort of the HVAC. Those are the sorts of things that where there is money, but I thought it was really interesting that when you ask alumni that, again, are in their mid-20s that are working, most of them said that the guidance and exploration was much more important to them than the trade schools. And I think that was, again, just sort of a cautionary tale for those of us in the charter school, that sort of you've seen a lot of knee-jerk reactions towards maybe we need to pivot. I don't have the data to support this, it's more of a hunch, but I do wonder that whenever we ask our families and our scholars, like when they say that they want more trade, is really what they're asking for, more just career exploration broadly, and that we're having a little bit of like an academic semantic confusion there. The second question was, thinking back to your experience in high school, what advice would you give your younger self? Again, over 50% said career paths early, more discovery, more exploration, and another very high percentage said self-exploration, sort of like those, if you think about sort of those career compass sort of activities, learning about your personality, learning about your interests, and being able to have more opportunities to do that at a younger year. And then finally, the impact of shouldn't be surprising, right? That students that had access to career exposure have better long-term outcomes. So the difference from a purely financial standpoint is 14%, quantified to about $7,000 in salary. I would say that in Dallas, that difference is more pronounced. I think Yasmin might have sent it already, but the Commit Partnership recently sent out a living wage report that Uplift scholars have higher post-secondary attainment, but also higher salary than Dallas County students by almost $20,000. And then, again, this is unsurprising, but in addition to the economic benefits, those alumni just report better outcomes in general when it comes to well-being. The question was, do you identify as thriving? So again, none of this should be surprising, right? That when you make a living wage, it increases your housing security, it increases your health security, it increases, again, just your overall sense of wellness and satisfaction. So again, I think that this all goes to show sort of the benefits of having a well-rounded career preparation in college, in high school. And then last slide is sort of what are some of those best practices. Again, this was the, I think Bain that did this study in terms of fact-finding around what are the different ways that you could do career exposure. I think when I saw this, it was kind of, my biggest reaction was this was very affirming, because I feel like at Uplift we do a lot of these things. We do have a lot of, again, those personal identity activities I talked about. We do give broad exposures to the extent that we can give real-world experiences. I think what, again, like my reflection sitting amongst my peers was, at Uplift, the challenge isn't so much are we doing these things, it's how do we scale them for an organization our size. So the one that I thought was really interesting was actually the company projects. We do some of that to a very small extent. It's in like a piloty way. But I feel like that's probably one of the opportunities where we really can scale our impact. Because again, when it comes to things like field trips, very similar to like college trips, right? They are very high impact. They're also very expensive. It's very hard, like logistically, transportation, there's a lot of constraints. But having a corporate or an industry partner come to a school, work closely with teachers to design a really innovative project, that's something that can reach an entire grade level with, I would say, moderate, but I don't think it's a huge lift. I think that that's an area that we would love to explore moving forward. And this is my last slide. It's just sort of a plug where we do a lot of these things. Our signature event is Career Week. It's the last week in January, and I think that this information has already been shared with you already. I just wanted to give you some updates on some of the decisions that we made as a committee. We have a really great committee that's working to put together some incredible programming. This is a network-wide event. We're trying to make it accessible to all of our scholars. We tried to be very responsive, so we got feedback from both students, staff members from the campus, but also our industry partners from last year too. So some of the feedback that we got is, unsurprisingly, the earlier that we can provide exploration opportunities for our scholars, the better. So a lot of, I think that I'm very confident in what we offer to high school. We have a lot of, very career-focused curriculum in high school, but what does that look like in primary and middle grades, really coming up with some age-appropriate activities. So that's something that we're working very heavily on. The in-person interactive experiences, I think in previous career weeks, because we wanted to be as inclusive and cast as wide as possible, we did do a lot of virtual events, virtual panels, things that we would have like a keynote speaker or panelist that all the campuses could log into like a Zoom link and see. And I definitely think that there was value from that. Like the quality and the caliber of the speakers were great, but the feedback that we hear from the campuses sort of, unsurprisingly, is whenever they can talk to somebody, when they can see somebody in their room and ask them questions, that's where it gets really, really meaningful. So to the extent possible, we really want to curate those in-person experiences at the campus level. And then finally, I think this speaks to your question, is the family engagement. I feel like that's an opportunity as well. Just like we want to expose scholars to career, we want to include the families as well, both from an education standpoint, but also recognizing that our families are assets. We have some incredible parents in the network that are incredibly well plugged in, they're engaged, they could be, they're already loyal to that campus. We could probably engage them a little bit better, so we're actually having some very specific communications in the next week going out to families to seek opportunities for them to be part of career at their campus as well. So our ask for you is just to help us spread the word. We do have a LinkedIn post that you can just it's already been written. All we need you to do is click the little arrow to send it. I was gonna say retweet, but it's not tweets on LinkedIn.
Share.
Yeah. And then in terms of ways to engage, what we're seeking from volunteers, I tried to organize it here in terms of what would be the entry level versus what would be a really robust. So at the very base level, we're just seeking volunteers. Again, we want to have those in-person experiences. We just want to have people in the classrooms. So it could be something as simple as just telling your professional journey. This was something that I did last year, actually, and I wasn't sure how it would be because I work for Uplift, is that weird? But it was actually one of my favorite volunteer experiences last year because every person has a story about sort of how they grew up, what brought them to college, what are the zigzags they took along the way. So that's something that we feel like anybody can engage in. Obviously, if you have an industry specialization, if you work in HR, if you work in banking, if you really want to help our students with, let's say, financial planning, that would be more like a guest lecture. And again, we can work with you or your partners or your colleagues to figure out what is a campus that has a class that offers that, for example. So that would be sort of the next level of experience. And then finally, for our corporate partners, if they would like to host a group of our students, we would, work very closely with you to sort of design what does a field trip look like, how many students can you accommodate, what would that day look like. We have several trips organized already, so any and all ways that you can help us engage, spread this, friends, family, professional peers, we really appreciate it. Thank you.
One thing I'll add on that is, as we talked about earlier in dinner and dialogue and getting more corporate sponsors, a great first step to getting corporations to buy in and potentially give money through sponsorship or grants later on is to get them mobilized in events like this. So this is a great entry point because although I hope that those companies are paying for those field trips. So if you want a field trip at your corporate office, pay for it. Because they are expensive, as we said earlier, but any of those other things are free. And it's just an easy way to see the impact that is being made in the classroom and especially our kind of diamond program, Road to College and Career, that is making all of this impact possible. So I just want to put that plug in there because that's an easy first step to get people to buy a table at dinner and dialogue.
It is incredibly bucket filling. I would say that the volunteers that we get give us very, very positive feedback on it. Also, I think for organizations that are doing sort of their social impact, sort of their community service projects, this is a really, really good one, especially if they want to talk to younger children, those are the opportunities.
Each of you knows someone in your workplace kind of conflict with this. And so the easiest thing to do is to shoot me an email. I know this person and they would like to be a speaker. And then we'll do all the logistics and work with that person, not to remember a bunch of emails. Just email. guys, you have a little bit of downtime in the holiday. I just think about the collective nature of this room. If every single person just thought of one person to come talk to our kids, how many classrooms would be able to go to? So,
The one thing that I'd add to what Gavin said, one, Gavin, me, whatever, that if any one of us will be connected where you need to connect. I would also say, if you have, again, you all are incredibly busy, we recognize that. If there's someone like you that is a little more junior, you that have a little bit more time, a little more flexibility in their day, that's also fantastic. Again, anyone at all, like that you work with would be a fantastic. Like, I know for you, maybe thinking, oh, my job's not that exciting, it's not that fun. None of our kids know about your jobs. They're exciting to all of them. And so just know that whatever it is that you do will be a brand new story for each one of our kids.
Yeah, really cool. That point, I think, when, so we know some of the events last year, this year, what we did was we put 4 or 5 of our registered students in front of our and a very practical discussion about their sort of future educational and professional journeys. But the reason I raised this is just emphasize the point that we can work with very junior people in the organization. In some cases, different class teachers and people to speak to our students because in terms of providing an example, they provide an example of the next 5 to 10 years as opposed to an example of some of these 30+ year lives. I encourage you
So I'm going to move to the alumni support. I know that we are thank you, Sophia, I appreciate it. I know we're fairly short on time, but I'm going to move through that fairly quickly the next little bit. I'm going to talk to you just about our alumni support. So if we go to the next slide, actually, just wanted to give a broad overview of what it is that we do for our alumni. One of the things that we do at Christmas, and really traditional district, is that we continue to support our alumni once they're in college, really well beyond that as well too. There really is no end to the support that we give. And so just wanted to point out, so we have a series of alumni supports we offer to our students in college, preparing for FAFSA, applying to scholarships, making sure they're re-enrolled in classes, they're needing career service support, career services support in that. We also have a team that will help support students who have gone to college but stopped out, sort of in that stuck space. We've got some that grant that's helped us create some programs both in healthcare and in the tech space, help our students who have done that find just new ways into careers that help them pay for what they pay for. Next slide. So I wanted to just sort of touch on, we know that our students are completing college at a pretty high rate, around 50% right now. It's about 4 or 5 times the national average, depending on which data source you use for students that are similar to our students. But we also know too that there are challenges that our students are running into. That pull back to community is going to always be strong. So for our students who are leaving Dallas, who are leaving Texas, that pull to come back, to support family, when things happen, those are all things that pull our students back to having to come back to where they may be. FAFSA still is a challenge since our students are FAFSA eligible once they're in college, so we're still seeing that as a challenge for many of our students. I don't know how I'm going to pay for college next year in 4 months. How can I enroll in classes? I have no money, I have nothing to do this, how will I make money in classes next semester? Inflation, it's big for all of us. But if you're working a campus job that's paying you $9 an hour, but your salary isn't going up, a little bit to inflation. So I think that is impacting our students just being able to get early fees. And then many of our scholars of all backgrounds just have concerns around what potential impact there may be with the administration. There may not be any that actually come from it, but some of the conversations around it can be scary. It can impact the willingness of someone to go off to college, have such a chilling effect on whether someone is willing to go off or not, or continue or not. These are sort of just a general run through of sort of some of the successes that we've seen. One of the main things that we're seeing is that, we've seen college completion rates overall fall. We're still running about 50%, which I think we're incredibly proud of. Again, not to the number that we want to get to, but it is much higher than what we've seen for the years. Like I said, our alums are still making great salaries, and again, we know that this is good, but we know that there can be better, so we're working on doing that. And then just touching on our Hammond workforce programs, like I mentioned before, we've got a healthcare program, an IT program, including a tech program, partnering with companies like Baylor, Scott & White, Siemens, and really what the goal is to, we're going to continue to add new programs, so adding education and pathways, to really continue to find ways to help alums who have gone to college to that path that they can be successful. We know that 50% of our alums are graduating, 50% that are not graduating, so we make sure that we help support those alums that are in college. So, I think that is So again, just wrapping up again, Robbering supports strong alumni outcomes, great salaries. Our career services, I think, have been a huge support for making sure that our students make top salaries. And then again, direct support for alumni who have gone to college but have not been successful. Have taken their course so far, some for so long, so from the class sometimes. And then, last question later, I guess.
Great job, Dan. So, again, I will thank Daniel and Sophia. They've been really important work. Super proud of them. We really are industry leaders in that space, and so we're super proud of the work that we do on behalf of our network. This is not as exciting as about the academic calendar for next year. In front of you, you should have a copy of the proposed calendar. I'll talk about just go over just a couple of shifts for next year. It looks very similar to last year's calendar. One of the things I do is I survey out to staff about how they feel about the calendar, what's most important to them to keep and remain in the calendar. Overwhelmingly, everyone still loves having a full week off in October for fall break. And they love having the early release Wednesdays for kiddos. Our students get out at about 2:30 every Wednesday. For 3 Wednesdays of the month, our staff has professional development. On one of the Wednesdays of the month, there's a wellness Wednesday where they go off and take care of themselves to be well. And so those are 2 things that people said they want to keep in the calendar, and so they remain in the proposed calendar. Things that I added this year was for parent conference days. So one of the attendance phenomenon that we see is that if we have a half-day scheduled anywhere in the calendar, there's a low attendance rate for students because parents say it's not a full day, I won't bring students there. That's typically how our parent conference is held in the evening on those parent conferences on a half day. I've eliminated those half days from the calendar just so that we don't have to worry about the attendance impact, but it creates the opportunity to have a full day parent conference day so more parents are able to attend with a larger range for participation. And so I think that helps, right, in terms of make sure parents are informed about their students' progress. I added one more parent conference day, so we're usually one in the fall, one in the spring. I've added one to the beginning of the school year. During COVID, we had check-ins with parents before the school year started, like virtual check-ins. This year, we're going to have a full parent conference day. So I think there's another opportunity to do some of that work around road to college and career expectations, just to kind of continue to brand and where their scholars, what's ahead for their scholars in the upcoming year. I think that's a great way to start off the school year. So that will be something new for this school year that I'm really looking excited to work with the teachers and leaders to design what that day looks like across the network. Once a quarter, or 2 quarters, one in the fall, one in the spring, there's a network-wide collaboration day where all of our teachers come together. We typically have it on the last Friday of the quarter. Teachers say that they are tired on the last Friday of the quarter because that Friday usually pushes up against the break, one of the breaks like fall break or spring break. And so we just shifted that day to be on a Monday. So after we progress, they'll come together for that full network-wide staff development day. So one of the things that I want to make sure we start thinking about is the best ways to optimize your time. The best way to have impact is to optimize time. I think there's an opportunity for us to really think about how we design our school year calendar. And so beginning in February, Jonathan Bennett, our Deputy Chief of Primary, will lead a committee that will start putting together different designs for future-facing calendars. It's going to take a lot of stakeholders. It's going to take a lot of conversations, like a huge change management effort if we are doing some significant changes. And so they'll start in February working on the calendar for school year 26-27. So hopefully by in June we've got some things to look at in terms of ideas that the stakeholders can come up with for how to best use our time as a network practice. So I am putting up the proposal, the calendar in front of you guys to be approved for the next academic year.
Renee, I'm sure this is true, that just given our roles for this calendar is designed with all these different requirements for minutes of education.
Yes, it's gone through quite a few people and quite a few revisions to make sure we're in compliance with TBA and with our employees.
to that, like on-campus childcare. You all consider that when you're creating those things?
We typically do, I mean, I think that when we first started with Celebrate, I think we had like a care with the idea of what would additional care look like, and I think we tried a lot, especially during COVID times. We often saw parents not taking up like that, those opportunities, but we do offer like a after school, like on the early release day. That's typically the day it's definitely really challenging. I think once parents know that they have these four days, we have off those for the holidays or the Celebrate. I think they've been able to plan around that. I think it's more or less being impacted, it's really training for parents. So eliminating the half days of issue. But we do have active care, especially for parents.
The only thing I would say is parent conference, and I'm going to say parent conference being on Friday, because the parents are tired, teachers are tired, students are tired, and to sit and have a conference, or to sit, even for the teachers to sit and wait for a parent to show up, and no one shows up, because, you know, if you can't guarantee a parent to come to check in on the kid. So I guess in the future, is maybe looking at another day for parent conference. Maybe earlier during the week, as far as, I didn't cut it to 12:30. Maybe just still leaving it on Wednesday, but still making it a regular day, as far as like, they still get out at 2. And cause I have heard the complaints of the 12:30, it's really just for parents, just for parent conference. I think if we can leave it at 2, it's still run the parent conference. So when they get out of 2, either start running into parent conference or choosing a day more. Because a lot of parents do have events on Friday. It's towards the end of the week where, you know, they may have something that it needs to be turned in as work on Friday and try to make it to school where parent conference may be more. So in the future. Thank you.
Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Do we have a question? I'm sorry.
No, I was directing.
Are you, thank you.
So moved.
Second.
It has been moved and seconded.
Okay, great. Well, I'm going to just give a quick enrollment overview. You know, as we head into our big lottery day in February 2nd. Current enrollment, we are tracking above budget. We're continuing as spring break. Seeing positive momentum by about 5% on overall, which is helping us with our overall enrollment. Application trends, we had a really strong year last year. We're up slightly over that year, but tracking healthcare, seeing great momentum in healthcare, both for Heights and Brand. We're seeing strong momentum with the athletic facilities in Uplift, Southern Dallas, both at Hampton and at Wisdom. Fort Worth remains a focus area. I think as of this week, we're now up by a percentage point, but we have more resources focused in Fort Worth as we continue to track what's happening with those schools. Re-enrollment kicks off in January, so that's where our current families will re-enroll or complete their paperwork and commit for next year. And then we'll also have our lottery for new families that happens on February 2nd. So we're continuing on engagement, marketing, and recruiting as we head into the new year.
Thank you.
All right, we'll quickly go through the Finance and Strategy Committee update. The Finance and Strategy Committee met on Friday. We generally dive deep into most of these topics, so I won't go in depth into them, but I just want to make sure that the broader board has visibility. The 2025 budget, we're remaining on target at this point in time. As Amanda already mentioned, enrollment numbers are up. Our ADA, we are tracking slightly above what we have in the original budget. So those things are helping us, and we're watching closely on
on the budget, but at this point in time, no major changes. Line of credit, we do have, some upside good news there. We got terms, offered to us from Regions, our existing line of credit, to basically, extend what we have. So, we do have an action item, to potentially, make sure that the broader board is aligned to move forward with that. The committee has reviewed those terms, and their recommendation at this point is going to be to move forward. Harold, I don't know if you want to jump in here or if I should go through everything else.
You have to come off mute.
He's off, I think it's the volume of the room. Is what it, yeah.
Oh, no.
You're gonna know it.
Oh, there we go.
But I just want to say this is a really impressive effort by Leslie and the team to produce a really strong proposal that is going to be a serious money saver for Uplift, and I'm very pleased with the outcome and proud of Leslie for seeing it through many different iterations and different bids and so on. But it was very professionally done, and I think the outcome is excellent. So the committee's and my own strong recommendation is that we adopt that and move forward with extending the line of credit with Regions. So I'll make a motion to that effect, that we have a motion on the table to approve extending the LLC with Regions. I don't mean to cut off any questions or comments from other people, but I want to get the motion on the table.
Are there any questions from anyone who can, and then we can continue the update around the region's line of credit? And those are track the terms that we have, and what is financially in the best interest of us.
How often is this done?
When we do RFP out on that credit.
So our line is a 3-year term, so our term comes up in May of 2026. So we've been proactively going through that process. So you will recall that we did have a motion to move forward with the line previously, and then at the last minute, we had an opportunity to get some better terms, so we're pivoting. So again, that's why we're coming back to you guys again with this.
Just following on Harold's comment, congratulations to, second the motion to approve these terms, which, as a reminder, are better than the terms we approved last meeting.
Okay.
So it's been moved and second, that we approve to move forward with the terms as presented.
The other item that I just want to make sure you guys are aware of that the committee covered, we went through 16 million of capital expenditures, which the committee has green-lighted to go forward for regular repair and maintenance primarily. Some of that is also inclusive of the changes to the building related to the Bloomberg Valentine White grant. So with that, also the committee discussed getting some better 5-year projections on our capital. So we're going to continue forward with that project, and that's in motion. The last item is in regards to our 2014-15 bonds that are up for refinancing come March. The 2015 bond will be coming up. This is an opportunity for us to just pause and look at where the interest rate was when we issued those bonds and where it is today. And we do have some opportunity there to reissue the bonds as of the latest interest rates that would give us some cash flow upsides there. So at this point in time, we have to basically get approval to move forward with issuing the PSF application to TPA to allow us to refinance those bonds and get the favorability. So at this point in time, the committee has reviewed all of those terms. The recommendation would be that the board grants us permission to move forward with the bond refinancing.
This is another really strong effort by the finance team. I just want to say this is a major savings for Uplift, and I strongly recommend that the board approve issuance of the application to move this proposal forward.
Are you making the motion here?
I was going to pause for any comments. I'm happy to make the motion.
I think the
So,
motion is to approve requesting PSF, which is loan guarantee capacity from TEA.
Yes,
That's
correct.
correct.
That's full stop, what
That's
we're
correct.
approving now. We'll get another vote in the
Yeah.
spring on the bond refinancing.
And we will take you guys
Right.
along on the details of the bond refinance, but at this point in time, we have to go submit to
Just request
TEA to request.
Because there's a lag time from
Yeah.
TEA to be able to respond back to it. So if interest rates move on us, we always can not move forward with the refinancing. We're just making sure we have access to the state's loan guarantee program, and that just has to take a few months in advance of the next decision part.
Well, again, knowing you've thought through this like in super detail for a long time now as management team, I'd second Hill's motion to approve the request for the PSF backstop from TEA.
Okay, so Harold was our first, and John was our second now.
Are there any votes against the motion? So it has been moved and second and approved. Thank you. Thank you, everyone. Great.
I love being the last report. Sitting on the edge of seat. This is a report to give you the feedback from the survey, the self-report. Basically, you all got this as an opportunity to reflect on your experience serving as a trustee. We got 16 responses out of 32 trustees, and the best news is that the vast majority, 81% of you, feel like you understand what the mission is and can actually advocate out in the community with that. 100%, I read this the first time I went, 100% at Uplift events, 100% of you have participated in at least one, if not more, Uplift event over the school year. And that's great. I'm not sure it was this high before, and so the participation at the luncheons, the participation at going out to the schools and meeting with, giving students treats, giving teachers treats, all of that, you've all been really good in responsive to those requests. We are a little shy, as you've heard multiple times tonight, on soliciting gifts. And I'm going to give you a very short example, which is there is someone I know from another organization that I really thought was a good opportunity, and so I asked to meet with the person just on a personal basis, and I got as far as giving him her background information. I did not have to do step 2 or 3. Step 2 and 3 happens with Yasmin and Deborah or Jessica. And so really, it's not like you're going to be sitting down personally, although to be honest, it's something you deeply believe in. There's nothing more satisfying than asking someone for a gift about something you truly believe in. Your job is to open the door. So I think all of us should explore in our own minds, as you've already invited us to do, who would we think about talking with, more information about Uplift, and what it means to the community to have this organization. And 88% of the board agrees that we measure our outcomes and share these results with board members. I can tell you as a governance committee, every time we meet with a new candidate, it's one of the first things we let potential candidates know is this is an organization that is reflective, that is forthcoming with what the challenges are and what they're doing to address them. So I think that's something to be really proud of as an organization. So these are pictographs, a little hard to read, but this is again representing 88% of people on the board acknowledging that they understand the mission, and they gave 4s or 5s. That was the scale. And the second one being
engagement, promoting Uplift to the wider community. Interestingly enough, 9%, when you look at these in the slides that you will see after the fact, represents one vote. And that just has to do with the numbers of 16 responses. Because you look at this, and in our early data, we saw that. I want to invite anyone who feels like there is not what they are wanting or expecting in terms of any of these questions, understanding of mission or commitment. Any of you who feel like you need more information, more research, please let me know, or anyone on the governance committee for that matter, so that we can make sure people are really satisfied. There's a chance people read the scale backwards and answered 1 when they thought they were saying 5. But more importantly, we want to know that people are having a very satisfactory experience working on this board. Fully engaged and involved. Over on the left, you get purple and blue together. So you only had 2 votes that were not in the 4 and 5 category. And on the right, we have a full and common understanding of our roles and responsibilities. That may seem like simple language, but it's one of the most crucial things in any nonprofit organization, that people understand what side of the line their responsibilities lie on. Not being too much in the weeds, but certainly understanding what a governance model is, that we work with administration, we are policy, we are not necessarily practices. We can certainly ask good questions and get information about what the implementations look like, but that's really not our domain. And last, the clear articulation of mission is probably one of the most important things, showing up with active participation and understanding your role. I can't think of 3 more important things to have as reported strengths. Our recommendations are thinking more deeply about what our community fundraising can be. Increase your direct experience. Be sure you take those opportunities to get out. I had one of the most important conversations I've had about college and career the first time I went out, because the person who was serving the students happened to be working in college and career and could articulate to me the rationale for choosing why students choose career over college. So they are great opportunities. Find more to share with the board, the result from the board. So we take a lot of information in. You'll hear Yasmin refer to surveys that they do with parents, surveys that they do with faculty, surveys that they do with scholars. And so we need to bring that data forward. So we are hearing those voices as we are thinking about how we're going to address things. And then more engagement in committees. Again, each of you has an opportunity to share with your committee chair what it is that you think you bring particularly to the table. And please let us know in governance if that's not a satisfactory experience, and we will help you work on that. I have one other update portion I want to say. We have one trustee who by term limits is term limiting out this year. We have 32 total trustees, plus 2 new parents will roll on next year. We are not stuck on that 32. If a perfect candidate comes up, we actually have 2 people we've already talked to extensively. So it doesn't mean that we have 1 opening and we will only fill that with 1 opening. Importantly, looking forward, next year there will be 3 additional openings. At our next meeting, when we talk about what the profile of the board is, what our demographics are, I will be sure to highlight what those 3 people particularly bring to the group, so we will be looking to replace those skills. I'd also like to ask any of you that are thinking about whether or not you want to continue your service next year, your circumstances have changed, and you're not sure you're going to be able to do it, please let me know as soon as possible. That gives us our best shot at finding good candidates. I am absolutely not encouraging a single one of you to make that choice. But if it's on your mind, even if you don't end up doing it, it's important for us to know what kind of transitions we have within the organization. So, last request.
Great. Thank you, Rusty, for a very comprehensive report, and we can count on you.
Thank you.
Alex, we have one final point of business here, and it is regarding administrative action for the minutes.
And we're gonna ask you to take a motion to approve the November 19th board minutes.
Thank you. Is there a motion to approve the November 19th board minutes?
So moved.
Been so moved. Is there a second?
Second, Lamar.
Hold on, thank you. Any votes against? Right, it's been moved and seconded to accept the board minutes for November 19th, 2024. Then, before we end the meeting, here, I know it is time. We've had a robust meeting, we had a lot of information. I'm gonna ask you to just bear with me 1 minute. The previous board chairs, we're heading out anyway. I'm gonna ask the previous board chairs to stand up, please. There are lots of other good ones. Yes, no doubt, no doubt. I am now going to ask the committee chairs to stand. And I know that will be you too, Harold. Yep, that's right. I am now going to ask our alumni and parents to stand. I'm now going to ask all committee members to stand. I'd now like to recognize our CMO staff administrators to please stand. As you stand and gather yourself, and I adjourn this meeting, and I will give you the time to officially adjourn this meeting. I am charging you with what you have already accepted, and that is to do the best job possible. You've done tremendous work, and showing up tonight reminds us, people are like, oh, it's a lot, we can barely get it. Every meeting should be that way when we are in attendance. Because when you are absent from your seat, something is missing. So I thank you for showing up tonight, for showing up to your committee meetings, for showing up as chairs, and our CMO and our staff, tremendous, tremendous work. Our parents, thank you for having a voice in this room, and our alumni, incredible. So it is now 6:11, and the meeting of the Uplift trustee is adjourned. I want to thank you all for staying. Good night.